doing a residency here. It's something that I have wanted to do for a very long time, and it just is very inspiring. At the heart of my practice is an obsession with process. I love teaching myself new processes and enjoy the challenges that they present. I have a great respect for craftspeople who have the skills to work wonders with their hands. So, of course, being here is just so incredible because they're such highly skilled artists, and using such a historically significant process, not to mention timely, is right up my alley. So, in my work, I'm grappling with ongoing themes relating to psychological states such as loss, longing, fear, and love and anxiety. I'm constantly trying to work on a visual language or my own set of symbols that represent these states of emotions. I might use things that suggest the measuring of time, such as hourglasses or funnels, things that could stand for infinity and endlessness in circles or loops, tails or umbilicals that stretch or pull out, animals that join people in their apparel, or nets to hold on, or control or catch. Hourglass is an object I made using pigment, stocking, a metal funnel and a balloon. When making this piece, I was thinking about vessels being used to channel matter and change their course, of something being spilled out, or of catching substances. Funnels are both literal and metaphoric sites of transference from one state to another. This brings me to transference. In this version, I like reusing and reassembling my work. So in this version, I use a length of hitched horsehair uniting two found objects, a bell jar and a glass funnel. The black snaking hose-like hitching acting as a conduit through which lumps of coal, a material that symbolises disappointment, trouble, affliction and loss, are transferred from a state of containment to one of release. This is fear itself. It's a creepy little funnel thing that grows hair from its internal mouth, leading to a plait at one end. Something I'm sure Freud would have had a field day with. This is Cipher, which is constructed from red horsehair and hangs on a hand-beaten metal hook. The zero or circle is a cipher, symbolising juxtaposing ideas of emptiness, wholeness, nothingness, completeness. This is Held from 2013, precariously suspended by a length of fabric slung over a nail. A collection of misshapen clay and plaster vessels nestled snugly side by side. A sense of nurturing and protection is provided by this simple sling in which the fragile containers are themselves contained, held together by the taut cloth which compliantly stretches to accommodate their delicate forms. That was my show at Daine Gallery in 2014. This was a show at Craft Victoria a long time ago. Symbolic associations of materials such as horsehair have been used in the series Pony Tales. The title of these horsehair works also alludes to the well-known fairy tales Rumpelstiltskin and Rapunzel, in which the troubled protagonists relentlessly toil, spinning gold or braiding hair in the hope of escaping from their place of confinement. You can see I kind of made it look like the wall bulges out. It's kind of growing the tail, or it's stuck in the wall. In this instance, the use of horsehair rather than human hair brings to the fore the historic ties between the female and animal subject, weaving together their shared experiences of coercion into domesticity or captivity, and the resulting anxiety this inevitably provokes. I glued little bundles in sections and tied them all together to make the tails. Ballet was the first piece you saw on entering the solo show Exit Land. It's a farewell bouquet or a parting gift given at the commencement of a journey. I collected and dried various plants that held traditional symbolic meaning, including bay leaves for strength, juniper for protection, moss for eternal love and charity, and poppies for sleep, oblivion, and imagination. It is red for love, the heart, and blood. I experimented a lot with the drying, dyeing, and hand colouring of the plants, and I incorporated some hitching and hair work to embellish the arrangements. The ribbons that bleed down and feed back into the umbilical-like rope present a contradictory element to this piece. In one way, the tangle of fabric can be seen as unravelling and releasing, but alternatively, they could perhaps be considered as an attempt to control and tie up a mess of coloured entrails. The distance between hope and despair is the horsehair net in the background there. And this one, the red piece, is called trawler. In these pieces, the measuring of time is counted out in tiny horsehair knots or threaded beads. These awkward nets don't manage to catch anything but air in their attempt to control something unseen, but somehow they appear purposeful in their pointlessness. Cornucopia was constructed from tiny stitches of horsehair and embellished with seed beads. This is Fight or Flight, which is a rope made from horsehair using a traditional Mexican rope making skill that I bought a little manual, and the cowboys would still do make rope this way, and I made the very rustic tools and worked out how to do it with my mum and my husband's help. Held together by counter-twisting forces, rope in many ways can be seen as analogous to the tension that arises from anxiousness. As a fundamental tool when working with horses, rope is an apt medium through which to explore notions of control and escape. Similarly, fluctuations between feelings of control and loss of control, restraint and release are common features of the anxious experience. Now, these are called tapestries, and now I don't know what they are. Here. So, the work is called Lessons to be Learned, and it's an ongoing series of tapestries, or I don't know, needlepoint. Hey, they're needlepoints, based on writing lines as a punishment of a quote that torments me. I don't aim to ever finish this work, and will keep returning to it throughout my life. It's very labour intensive. They're about 60 hours each, and I've exhibited it set up a few times on my desk with my work either on it and the wind up frames ready to keep going. I believe that slow, repetitive movements offer a distraction from your life, a meditation where your mind can be calmer, your breathing can slow down, and there's a brief escape from the demands of life, a therapy of sorts. This is called Security Blanket. The rhythmic, repetitive nature of hand spinning is certainly a meditative process for me. My mum taught me to spin in order to make this work. It's hand-spun dog hair, which I deliberately underspun so that when I knitted it up, it would fluff up like a pelt or look like an animal. I sort of put my cat on it deliberately because she patted for it and helped puff it up for me. The easiest and most pleasurable place for me to be, without a doubt, is neither at the beginning of a project, which is fraught with questions and options and no clear idea of which way to go, or at the end when there is sadness that it is over and the knowledge that you have to start on something new. I love knowing that I don't have to think for a while, that I can just do on repeat over and over and nothing else matters. There can be feelings of hope and anticipation. You might imagine seeing it in a gallery, and it gives you satisfaction that you're on the right track. there's comfort and reassurance that you can pick it up anytime and just continue on from where you left off. This is a really early work I did, The World is a Dangerous Place. For my honours work, I knitted a garment that would connect myself to my mare, Succotash. And I also did one with my dog, and I was very grateful for both of their cooperation. I didn't know how they'd go, so I did a couple of photo shoots for the one with my horse, and I had a pair of scissors, which I, for some reason, thought if she freaked out and flew backwards, I'd have enough time to snip to the thread so I didn't lose my neck, but she was very good and tolerated another one of her human silly things I used to do with her. I lost her 4 years ago, and she was nearly 35, and I'd had her for 24 years. Mm. She was my first love, so I was very worried for a lot of her life about losing her. So when I wanted to do a memento mori piece for her, I just felt I had to really honour her and acknowledge my grief through the making. And by going slow and doing slow stitching and beading, I think it gave me the time to think about why I was making it, what I was trying to get this object to represent. Is it surprising me or being different to what I imagine it to be? It allows me to work through things. I'm not a fan of inspirational quotes, surprisingly, although I use them in my work. So this one, shouting, "Live like it's your last day alive," I really don't like, because it fills you with panic and failure that you've stuffed your life up. And lots of iconography that we link to death, like skulls and third eye, and lots of inspirational quotes about John Wayne one there about courage is being scared to death but saddling up anyway. And I made it as our last ride kind of together, the Western Saddle. And I deliberately wanted it really over the top and just totally blinged out. And Sophia actually put this in a show she curated last year, which was great. One of the techniques that I have used a lot in my work is I've just referred to as hitching. And I've had a real love affair with this virtually obsolete technique. It's called horsehair hitching, which is a cowboy craft, and it's traditionally used to make horse gear or hat bands. And it was kept alive in the US prison systems, where inmates taught each other how to hitch to help pass time. My first piece, The Work of Worry, is never done. I don't know why I worked out these statistics, but it took 2,010 individual horsehairs and was made up of 12,416 knots. For me, hitching represents the epitome of suffering from anxiety. It is pointless, monotonous, and creates a state of constant tension. And yet there's also an addictive and hypnotic effect derived from the process, which makes it somehow soothing. To sit with any process, either pleasurable or painful, requires a good deal of patience. The definition of patience in the dictionary is the bearing of provocation, annoyance, misfortune, or pain, without complaint, loss of temper, irritation, or the like. This uses a bit of hitching and another technique called, that's based on the ornamental and decorative use of human hair in Victorian jewelry. Hairwork jewelry was worn as a memento of a deceased loved one in Victorian times. I consulted a reprinted book from 1875 called The Self-Instructor in the Art of Hairwork, and through a slow process of trial and error, substituted horsehair for human hair and made this very rudimentary stand with bobbins from bolts and steel nuts to get the correct tension. I've got that piece over there as well. And that brings us to now, which is what I'm starting to play with at the moment, which is the yellow work there. I don't tend to use much colour in my work, but it's kind of a nice, surprising thing to be using yellow. Last year, my final horse that I had bred and was there for his birth and owned and cherished for 20 years got surgical colic and spent 7 days in intensive care in an equine hospital, but died from surgical complications. I suddenly found myself horseless for the first time in 26 years. I found myself grieving for his sudden and unexpected loss, but also for a part of myself and my identity. This new body of work I've been working on here is about that. I think it will be called Afterlife. And I aim to make about 15 more shapes. These shapes are based loosely on my wobbly ink drawings of dissected horse gear, saddles to stirrups to girth straps, part horse, part abstract, part something else. The yellow is for light and life. I use the oxalis flowers from my horse's paddock, where they are now buried. When that ran out, I used my homegrown weld goldenrod and dyes chamomile, and I've got more fabric that I've done with onion skins, buddleia flowers, native cherry and mistletoe. This will be finished for a group show I'm in next month at Bayside Gallery called Pets Are People Too.
Thank you.